L'après-midi d'un faun was a group work. He danced the title role, and the choreography was in 2 dimensions, in profile, like Egyptian painting. This was revolutionary in that it revealed the profound expressiveness of immobility and a limited, almost pedestrian movement palette. Less was more at last. Also, for the first time, the dancers occasionally stood still while Debussy's music flowed like a stream around them. My rather banal idea was to release the faun into the 3rd dimension, using 3 or 4 of Nijinsky's poses as touchstones. The dance was a success. Even Paul liked it. As I performed the work to an audience which on one occasion included my first and most loyal fan, my mother, and on another, Mick Jagger, a part of me believed that with the help of the spirit of Nijinsky, I wasn't pretending to be the faun. I was becoming it. My own last concert was at the 14th Street Y. We premiered Hey Paris in quartet, and I danced faun variations again. Tobias had a starring role, and Debbie taught the dancers a work I'd made for Limbs called Halcyon. Jamie, my new and final New York boyfriend, nailed the tricky solo in quartet. It was a massive team effort, and we were fated. Paul stayed away. Limbs wanted me back to dance and make my own work. Paul didn't want me to leave, and we agreed I would take a year's break and then decide. Most of the dancers I knew thought I was mad. They said if I stayed, Paul would make me a star in New York. But everything had changed. One sunny day I was so hungry for green I went to Washington Square Park and found a narrow space just my size on the grass, and in the throngs of people I lay down. A bird flew over me, and as it flew, for just an instant I felt it, as if it were an amputated part of me that had been magically reattached, and I knew I had to go home. On my last night I was having dinner with Jamie at a restaurant in St. Mark's Place when we had a violent argument. I stormed off into the night blind with anger. I went to a park in Alphabet City and bought some crack and smoked it in a glass pipe there and then. It tasted like exhaust fumes, but then the darkness we were sitting in opened up, and I was rushed to a place of utter gladness, with the black drug dealer as my heavenly benefactor. Just when I felt we were about to understand everything, I was rudely dumped back on the dark bench, and his eyes were totting me up. I kept wanting more, and ran up a small debt which the dealer then came back with me to collect. On that last night I was staying in Westbeth, Tobias's building, in the empty apartment of one of his friends. After we walked in the door, I left the man for a moment as I went to the bathroom. When I came out, he'd gone, taking with him my wallet containing not only a couple of $100, but also my passport. I ran through the maze of iceberg hallways trying to catch up with him, but he was nowhere to be found. It was already 4 a.m. and my plane was leaving that afternoon. I woke Tobias, and in the hideous morning we traipsed uptown to the New Zealand embassy, where we met Witi Ihamaira, at that time the consul. He was wreathed in diplomatic smiles, and without fuss issued me a document to say that I was temporarily me, so I could go home. The first sight from the air of the green-furred hills was always a shock. Where were the people? Were those really houses? How did it get so green? Malcolm had an old wooden house in Arch Hill, an inner-city suburb of Auckland. After the well-insulated, centrally heated buildings of New York, the bungalows in rainy Auckland were leaking, rotting sheds. Of course I was lucky to have a roof over my head at all, but the fragility of the shelter, combined with my emotional predicament, made that time reminiscent of a night I spent once in a pup tent in a raging storm. I came back covered in glory. The 2 seasons I did with Limbs in 1987 and 1988 were, so I've been told, triumphs. And now is the hour, my first evening-length work. I had a sheep shorn live on stage each night by a professional shearer. At first we only had the one sheep in its little pen in the wings, waiting for its moment. But we discovered it got lonely and sometimes barred during the quiet bits, distracting the audience, so the shearer started bringing 2 sheep to keep each other company. And then when the chosen one was taken on stage to be shorn, the other one could be heard from the wings bleating its abandonment. I think at one point there were 3 sheep in the wings. The work contained nudity, and in Tauranga we were picketed by outraged Christians with signs warning, "You can't pull the wool over God's eyes." They got their picture in the paper. But I was caught in a downward spiral, fueled by alcohol. At that time the only place I felt safe was on stage. There at least I had the illusion of control. To me, dance is sacred, and even at my worst I never touched alcohol before a performance. Afterwards, though, I drank oceans of it. At the end of the opening night in Auckland, the audience howled like a banshee. I was still shimmering with the glitter of overseas, and they wanted to swallow me whole, or so it seemed. I shared my role in Now Is the Hour with Ty, one of the other dancers, and we alternated nights. He brought a quiet elegance to the role that I danced as a kind of self-immolation. I have a dim memory of spending the day up a tree in Christchurch, drinking red wine, egged on by the infamous Barbara Franks, and then going that night to watch the performance with a flask of gin. As I sat with Barbara in the back row of a packed audience, I yelled out loud, derisive comments, wolf whistling at the serious bits and clapping enthusiastically at the poignant moments. No one told me to shut up, or at least not that I remember. Waking up the next morning, hungover, the split second when it hit me what I had done, and that I had to go and get in a minivan with all the dancers to drive to Dunedin was, I think, just punishment. After that I sank fast. Malcolm, Debbie and other friends tried to help me, but I was beyond their reach. I went to a psychic who barricaded herself behind a wall of crystals before she would talk to me. She asked me please not ever to think of her, because I was so toxic. Even my thoughts were dangerous. All I could do was drink, cry, and read aloud poems by Emily Dickinson. A counsellor called Lise found me and sat and listened. She quite liked Emily too. And when I was ready, she took me to a detox house in Federal.
It is crucial for our investigation. So I'm appealing to members of the public in the Kandala area with CCTV footage, particularly of the streets around Cashmere Avenue, Onslow Road, Burma Road, Box Hill and Agra Crescent to contact police, please. We're also completing a scene examination in Island Bay. I can confirm that we've located items of property belonging to Mrs. Shillar, and a scene examination was completed there yesterday with the police dive squad. I'm appealing to members of the public in Island Bay with CCTV footage of the streets around the bus depot, Reef Street and the beach in Island Bay to contact police, and we can get in touch with them to review CCTV footage. We're also appealing to any members of the public that may potentially have sighted Mrs. Shillar between Friday and Saturday, 16 and 17 November 2018, to come forward and contact police. At present, the Wairarapa Police, on behalf of Area Commander Scott Miller, have given us some staff to go down to the south coast on White Rock Road to complete a scene examination there and an extensive inquiry along the beach. So we're completing a search out there at present, hence the media release here today and asking you guys to come over. I can confirm that a post-mortem was completed yesterday. I cannot go into the details in regards to that or any findings. We have provisional findings at the moment in regards to cause of death, but we are waiting for forensic analysis to come back to confirm the actual cause of death. We are liaising with family members and the husband of Mrs. Shalar and providing welfare support to them in this time. Naturally, the family are devastated, but we continue to provide answers to them, and we'd like to get some answers in regards to how Mrs. Shalar died and how she ended up in at the beach here in South Wairarapa. Other than that, that's all we've got to say. Any questions?
What items did you find at Island Bay?
I can confirm that we found Mrs. Shalar's 2 cell phones. So we put a dive team in yesterday to search for other items of property. We continue to search the beach at South Wairarapa where we found Mrs. Shalar on Wednesday, and we're looking for evidence and other items of property along that beach as we speak.
Where did you find on the beach those items? Were they on the beach or in the water, on the rocks?
Sorry, here or in Island Bay?
The items that were found in Island Bay.
Yeah, thankfully a couple of young chaps that were at the beach on Saturday found the items, the 2 cell phones in the water.
Is there any possibility of retrieving any information from those cell phones?
Yeah, we're working through forensic analysis on those cell phones to determine polling and call data.
And what led police to Island Bay in the first place?
A couple of young people in Island Bay were at the beach on Saturday and they located the 2 cell phones in the water.
What are police expecting to find during the scene examination in Wairarapa today?
We're just looking for more evidence and her items of clothing or any other items that she may have had on her.
What kind of investigation is this? Is this yet being treated as a homicide investigation?
No, it's not. We're trying to determine how she died, how she ended up here on the south coast, and any movements between her home address and how she got here. So at this time it's an unexplained death. However, we're committed to resolving how she died and how she ended up here on the south coast.
While you've been doing any of that door knocking, have you had any reports yet as to any possible movements or possible sightings of her during that period?
We've spoken to a number of people who are helping us with inquiries, but again we're appealing to anybody that may have seen her on Friday or Saturday, particularly between Kandala, Island Bay and potentially here in the South Wairarapa.
Are any of her family coming over to New Zealand from overseas?
I don't know that answer at this time. However, we're continuing to speak to them, keeping them informed, and we're determined to get some answers for them, so give them some resolution in regards to her death.
What is your response to her family's claims that she's been murdered?
Yeah, I can't say anything in regards to what they're saying.
Have you been given any CCTV images yet or any other still images?
Yeah, we've collected significant amounts of CCTV footage from businesses, vehicles and members of the public, so we're working through that as we speak.
And from what you've worked through, have you found on there any images of Sonam?
I can't go into detail about that at this time. However, I just want to appeal to the public again and ask for them to contact us if they've got any CCTV footage, potentially of the roads, streets, particularly in Kandala and around Island Bay.
And are you still sticking with, is it still in terms of the timeline, the idea that she went missing on Saturday morning? Is that still a timeline?
At this point in time we're seeking sightings or any information in regards to Friday the 16th and Saturday the 17th of November.
So you think it's possible that she may have gone missing earlier than Saturday morning?
Potentially. We're seeking answers in regards to that to determine when she went missing.
So when was she actually last sighted?
She was last sighted on Friday the 16th by the people she resided with, and Saturday morning was the last sighting by her husband.
So when you say the last sighting by her husband was on Saturday morning, but you say she may have gone missing earlier, how can you say that if the last sighting was on Saturday morning?
We're trying to determine whether she has been sighted over those periods of time. Yeah.
Can you clarify if Mr. Shalar was found on the beach or washed up?
All I can say is she was located on the beach here in South Wairarapa. It's a pretty remote area by three surfers, and I just want to thank them for coming forward to police. They've obviously had to come out of the ocean and walk a couple of kilometres to the nearest farmhouse to place a call to police. These three chaps were fairly young and it was pretty traumatic for them, so we're providing welfare and support to them at this time.
And what's leading you to not rule out foul play here?
Oh, we're still working through a number of inquiries, so until we gather all that information, we can't announce that it's either a homicide or an unexplained death.
Has her home been searched?
Sorry?
Has her home been
Yeah,
searched?
we've searched her home.
Her partner's vehicle?
Yeah, he's cooperated with us, and we've done a number of scene examinations, so yeah.
So you've spoken to her husband?
We've spoken to him a number of times, yep.
Are there any other persons of interest?
Persons of interest?
Are you
Is there a person
interviewing
of
anyone
interest?
else? Has she got friends or family?
Oh, we're speaking to
large social circle?
large number of people, so.
I'm curious, has he got any restrictions on his travel at the moment? Is he allowed to leave the country if he wanted to?
Who, Mr. Shalar?
Mr. Shalar, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We continue to provide support and welfare to Mr. Shalar at this time as well.
Who lived,
One more question, guys?
Oh, in terms of her living situation, did she live at home alone with her husband, or did she live with other people as well?
She lived with 3 or 4 other people. It was a shared flatting situation at a residential address in Kashmir.
But it was only the husband who reported that she was last seen on Saturday morning.
That's correct.
Sorry,
Cool,
Laura,
that's it, guys.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Have police ruled out the possibility that she either came to or was brought to White Rock?
Oh, I can't speculate on that. We're still continuing inquiries in regards to that, so yeah.
Do you have no idea how she left Kandala?
Again, we can't speculate on that. We're still working through that, making inquiries to determine how she ended up here on the south coast, being found on Wednesday. Thanks, guys. Hope that helps. Long way to come. The team are currently on the White Rock Road beach completing a scene examination. It's a wee way out there, but you're more than welcome to travel out there if you want to get some images out there. Cool.
The problem you'll have out there though, it's you've got to track through private land, private farmland, so you're not actually going to have access to the beach. And all you'll see out there is probably 6 to 8 police officers out of uniform walking up and down the beach.
So you can't actually get out there.
You can't get out there unless you've got permission from the farmer to get through, and then it's four-wheel drive or something similar to actually get to the beach area. So
Nothing to stop you walking along there.
feel free if you've got gumboots.
Thank you very much.
All good?
Thank you.
Thanks, boss.
Hi, Elisa from the Wairarapa Times Age. Can we please get a photo of you two just in front of the police station, please? Thank you.
All right, see you guys.